trying to just talk about some philosophical thoughts about where we should be going to, where we should be thinking about marketing. And this triangle is the process of branding. Basically, it says at the beginning, when you try and get your product onto the market, you start off by looking for salience. You try and get awareness, some level of people knowing that you're playing in the game. And then you build associations around your product on performance characteristics. In other words, you know, my car is faster than your car. Until you get to the point of having some level of judgment as to which car stops the quickest, and then you build into this process of feelings and images, and then eventually you get to this point of resonance. I'm usually loyal. I've got a love for a brand. It brings up 2 points. The first is that your brand is really the kind of gut feel that you get when you see something. When you see Corona on the table, when you see an apple on the table, what do you feel when you see that? That gut feel is really what a brand is. This is quite interesting. On Interbrand Best Global Brands of 2009 and 2010. In 2009, Nokia lost 3% of their brand value. Last year, they went and lost another 15%. And how did that happen? Apple, all of a sudden, with iPhone, gained 37% in 1 year, their brand value. So Nokia didn't lose their brand because they did a bad branding job. What they did was that people realized that the Nokia phone is kind of like old stuff. I mean, the technology just hasn't kept up with what's going on with the rest of the world. And that's an indication of how this process of this formal building of brands, of this triangle, is just not working in the same way anymore. The process of branding that we used to have works much better when we have got audiences which are passive, in other words, they absorb things, and audiences which are available. What's happened in recent times, of course, is that both of those things no longer exist. But before I get to that, let me just bring in my kind of practical example. If you were living in that kind of world that I've just described, and some big guy with a lot of money in his pocket came up to you, he had sort of like 160 million rand that he wanted to spend in 6 months, and he came up to you as an ad executive and said to you, please will you help me spend this, and please will you make sure that my cell phone network ends up as being the top cell phone network in the country. Now, technologically, Cellc is got the best network, or it's getting to be the best network. We've got a really brave CEO who's prepared to change his company, he's prepared to change the way that he engages with people. He's even prepared to admit that he's wrong. So what do? What you do is you set up a campaign that says, we are the best, we've got a 4G network, and we say, and we pretend that we engaged with our audience by putting up a clip on YouTube and then responding to it and pretending that we may be part of the system, and we put a comedian in the place as a customer advocate, that he's he's going to protect our brand. Of course, in the old world, that would have probably worked, because in the old world, share of voice, in other words, how much money I spend on my advertising, equates to share of mind, and share of mind then equates to share of market. But things have changed, and what's changed fundamentally is these two things. Firstly, that people are connected in a way that they've never been connected before. The other thing that happened is that the internet changed the economics of publishing. Whereas before, to get something published, we had to own or be able to pay for a printing press, or buy a radio station, or buy a television station, or buy space in a television station. Now we can publish for free, for absolutely nothing. And we can do, and anybody can do it, and are doing it at a massive, massive rate. So now our target market, our audience, is no longer there because they're not listening. So we aren't able anymore to build our audiences, to segment our audiences in the way that we used to. It doesn't work that way anymore because the people aren't sitting watching things that LSM, Bloomin' 10s watch. What they're doing is that they're deciding what subject matter they want to engage with, how they want to put themselves into groups, and how they want to put themselves into communities. And they decide when they want to interact with our brand. That we don't have the opportunity anymore to be able to force how they're going to operate with us. And they trust people like them more than they trust advertising and PR. In fact, new research that just come in the States says that around about 19% of the inhabitants of the United States trust advertising messages. Now, so Cellcom comes out and they do this campaign. And they tell us that they've got a 4G network. Why would they do that when they've got a better network than the other guys anyway? Why? Because they thought that they were in control of the message. And what did they do? What did it end up with was the ASA shut down their campaign and called them deceitful and dishonest. So now they've gone out to say, trust us, we're going to do something for you, we're going to give you a better network. What do? They blow it. They lie to us about a 4G network. And so what is the response? Cellcom sucks ass. It sucks to be part of Cellcom's marketing team. You know, plus that 4G thing is a lie. The network was best. You know, so then you get stuff like this, you know, C is for clown, Cellcom's latest blunder. We're not claiming that we run on a 4G network. 4G stands for great service. Cellcom's CEO, have I just been punked? So there you get a response to something which is good, but which nobody believes. And people on Twitter, it wasn't even the space where everything was happening. Only 14% of these comments were even coming from Twitter, and that most of the domains that mentioned Cellcom only mentioned them once. So what does that mean? That means that people lost interest. Halfway through a 160 million rand campaign, they lost interest. Now to thinking a little bit about the solutions. Social media and the things that we're doing here is a little bit like controlling water. We can control water when it's in a hose pipe, because we can switch the front of the hose pipe off, we can direct it into the direction that we want to, we can even change the pressure and the form that the water comes out of the hose pipe. But when it's in the sea, we have got no hope of controlling it. And what we've done with social media and what the internet has done is it's given this power to people out of our control. As brands, we can't tell people what to say. We can't tell them what to think about. We can't tell them what has to happen. But what we can do is we can start understanding them. And we start understanding them by listening to them. And when we listen to them and we start working out what we can do, we can start doing something beautiful like that wave ride. Because that wave ride came because somebody was not able to control, but was able to harness what was going on into things. We can't make our audience or our people do anything. What we can do, though, is we can create a trellis work, a structure, a framework, a culture around which our brands can be built. And do that by doing a couple of things. And first, we find the talkers. Okay? We need to understand the roles that people play in those networks. You know, are they connectors? Are they people that gather information? Are they sharers? What do they do? You need to understand the level of influence that those people have. Okay? You need to then give them something to talk about. And this is what social media is. We give them a way to talk about it. And the way to talk about it is the tools where our social network is operating, where our influences are. So if you think that social media is putting up a Facebook page, sorry, you're wrong. If it's a Twitter account, sorry, you're wrong. The places that you're going to be is the places that your influences are.